Today's video is sponsored by Figure Markets, the place you go to earn yield and borrow against your Bitcoin and Ethereum. Figure Markets crypto-backed loans let you borrow against your Bitcoin or Ethereum with up to 75% loan-to-value ratio, one of the highest in the industry. Whether you're looking to reinvest and double back down into more Bitcoin, cover everyday life expenses, or just have cash on hand, these loans make it simple. Interest rates start as low as 12.5% with no credit checks, no long applications, and no prepayment penalties. And if you're worried about sending your Bitcoin as collateral to somebody you don't know, well, Figure Markets is a subsidiary of Figure, the largest non-bank HELOC lender in the US, with over $14 billion of home equity unlocked, and founded by Mike Cagney, who founded SoFi. Sign up today at figure.com/Real Vision and download the app to explore all their offers. Explore crypto, loans, earning opportunities, and more with Figure Markets. Hi, I want to talk to you today about my friends at Bitwise and why they're the best crypto asset manager out there. I've talked on the show often about how crypto is reshaping everything from finance, portfolios, and even macro. Everything's ramping up. We've got tailwinds in DC, interest from TradFi, and growing optimism. But smart investors see all of this and focus on the how. What's the savviest way to seize this moment? And that's why so many investors I know are working with Bitwise today. They've been all in on crypto since 2017. They're OGs. They've got more than 30 products to help investors like you get access to whatever they need or want. They've got a team of more than 100 across the US and Europe, and they have over 10 billion in client assets. You know, a lot of people know Bitwise for their ETFs, how they manage the world's largest crypto index funds and the wide range of crypto ETFs they have. But not as many people realize, Bitwise manages private alpha strategies too, and has SMAs for large investors, and is one of the largest institutional Ethereum staking providers. They really do everything. These guys are true OGs in the space, and they're good friends of mine too. So please go and check out Bitwise. They're really excellent. Go to bitwiseinvestments.com and see all that they've got to offer. That's bitwiseinvestments.com, or just email them at james@bitwiseinvestments.com and let them know that Raoul sent you. Anyway, there's a million ways to access crypto. Explore how you can access it best with Bitwise. And remember, carefully consider the extreme risk associated with crypto before investing. Anyway, thanks so much. Hi, I'm Raoul Powell, and welcome to my show, The Journeyman. The Journeyman, as you know by now, is my journey to that nexus of understanding of macro, crypto, and the exponential age of technology. I tried to bring all of you along this journey by talking about different component parts, whether it's technology, crypto, or the macro, and often I bring them all together as well. So you think of it as your learning journey because you're piggybacking on my learning journey. Now, one of the things I've been passionate about for a long time now is this idea that we've got 5 years left before the economic singularity, when AI and the robots change the structure of economies, business models, and our lives in general. It's something I've been trying to focus people on, saying digital assets and crypto are one of the only ways for you to protect yourself, and we've only got 5 years before we just don't know how things work anymore. That's all part of my exponential age thesis. This thesis that technology is going to go exponential in its adoption and its impacts on everybody's lives. Now, most of you don't really yet grasp how big this all is. You see bits of it. You see bits of AI posted here and there. None of you are using it enough, and nobody really understands the profound impact it has on civilization itself. Now, myself and David Mattin started writing about this in Global Macro Investor maybe 4 years ago. I started writing. I brought David on to help me. So David writes for Global Macro Investor, my premium research service, and we decided that people so wanted to know more about technology, its impact, where it's all going, what it all means, that we spun up an independent research service, which is not part of Real Vision, but it's available on Real Vision, called the Exponentialist. And the Exponentialist has formed itself into this amazing community where we not only write a lot of research around this topic, but we also talk to Real Vision members or Exponentialist members. And what I want to do with you today is share one of these conversations so you can see how unique it is as a product, the kind of conversations we have. And I think it's going to leave you slightly unsettled and hopefully quite inspired. Anyway, enjoy the Exponentialist fireside chat with myself and David Mattin. Join me, Raoul Powell, as I go on a journey of discovery through the macro, crypto, and exponential age landscapes. In The Journeyman, I talk to the smartest people in the world so we can all become smarter together. So welcome everybody to the monthly Fireside Chat that started with David and I, and now it's all of us. We all come together and talk about some of this crazy stuff that is going on in the world, how to make sense of it all. And what I love about these conversations is they are conversations. It's not just a Q&A of David and I. Yes, we do that as well. But it's also everybody adding in their thoughts about where this journey is going, because it's, as we can tell, and we said this all the time, it's just accelerating. And it's almost tough to make sense of. So I love the idea of getting this kind of hive mind together to make sense of the world around us, what is happening, what it means for us, where it's all going. David, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you, Raoul. How are you? Think you've been a busy man.
I have. I've been traveling a lot. Really interesting. I was in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Qatar, and I was at the Abu Dhabi Investment Council, which is one of the big sovereign wealth funds. And they just made it very clear that everybody in the region, and Tom will know this because he's out there as well, is that they've all been given the mandate. Number one is AI, and number two is blockchain. Our core thesis is what they're building their entire future country stack on. And this is the whole Trump visit that went there. It's all about the same thing. So they know they've got abundant energy, which is part of your thesis, David. They know they've got abundant energy. They know that they're going to have to adopt technology at scale. They've got young populations that are growing, and they think they can be not only a regional leader, but a world leader in these two things. And so the mandate is invest in this, build this. And it's really exciting to see. I mean, everyone there is still trying to get their heads around what it means. I mean, but this is everything from the oil company through to the sovereign wealth funds, through to the general population, through to businesses, through to the education system, the system of government, all of it. That's what's up to grabs. And that's not just in Abu Dhabi, which tends to be very well thought through in this, but it's Dubai, it's Qatar, and it's Saudi. And Saudi's, really is a big player behind the scenes in this whole thing. So they have this cohesive strategy about what the world is going to look like, and that's what they're accelerating on.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And there are a few sort of exponential age times geopolitics things to get into this month. But one of the big things was Saudi Arabia announcing this humane AI, like just massive nationwide strategic push on AI. Hundreds of thousands of Nvidia chips, tens of billions of dollars a year. And, this is something we talked about at the GMI event in California, just how deeply MBS sort of gets it, right? Gets the exponential age. And you just sense a country now that knows the oil wealth is not going to last forever and ever, and is just making a massive strategic decision around intelligence and the exponential age. And it's really interesting to watch it.
We've probably all mid-curved Nvidia because we were assuming that there was going to be a boom-bust cycle because Microsoft and others will have pre-ordered what they're doing. But now we're seeing nation states with endless capital availability building yet more stuff. And I just can't see how that stock doesn't continue to really perform, because it's at the epicenter of everything still, and that doesn't go away, and Taiwan semi being another.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we can gallop straight into the other really interesting thing this month. Jensen Huang was just speaking at Computex, the massive technology conference in Taiwan, right? And talking through the way Nvidia sees AI, fascinating, this journey from AI to agents to physical AI, which he's talked about before. But if you just want an overview of where AI is heading, it's a brilliant talk. Announcing some really interesting stuff that we can get into, I really want to get into. But one of the big things he announced was a strategic partnership to build a massive AI supercomputer in Taiwan, right? So this is Nvidia, the Taiwanese government, and TSMC all coming together to build, a world-leading AI supercomputer in Taiwan, right? And it just strikes me that really taps into all kinds of fascinating stuff. One of the things it taps into is this idea of a grand bargain that you and I have talked about before, that I think came out of the GMI event the year before last, right?
That's right.
You can just see how interwoven US AI companies and TSMC are becoming, to the point where outright conflict just becomes unthinkable. And it's like, you can have, you can have TSMC factories in Arizona, but in return, US companies, basically Nvidia, need to agree to do hundreds of thousands of chips in Taiwan to do a world-leading AI supercomputer. And at some point, we know that these are going to break apart into spheres of influence, right? And we're kind of arranging that now. That's what it feels like to me. And we're going to be so woven through each other that outright conflict becomes unthinkable. It's really interesting to see the strategy play out. And yeah, cycling back to what you said, we have mid-curved it because, yeah, this is another kind of God knows how many other 100,000 Nvidia chips, right? So where's the boom and bust cycle when you have sovereign nations wading in like this?
If you're enjoying this conversation and it's making you think, I need to know more about this because it's going to impact myself, my children, and everybody around me, including my business and my investments, then why don't you come and join us at the Exponentialist, realvision.com/the future, and you can become part of this incredible community where we all figure it out together. And I'd love to have you along for the journey. It's the game of sovereign nations because it has to be. But it's the future of everything. If we saw one preemptive version of this with nuclear technology, in fact, stopped large conflicts because you end up scaling this technology and it becomes a way of balancing power. And this is the new power, right? Intelligence is the new power, is the new nuclear weapon. And you're going to see, what the Middle East is doing is building their own Arabic language versions and everything else. And we're going to see this regionalization of this, as you say. But at the middle of it is a bunch of technologies that is just not going to go away. And again, it's hard to keep your eye on all of the balls at the same time. So like people are like, AR, VR has dropped off people's minds right now. But it won't do, because all of this brings yet more compute power and ability within that sector. Robotics is all over my X stream now as more and more of these robots get better and better and better. We're going to see obviously the robo-taxi launch, I think, in Austin, Texas next month. That's going to be, okay, we've got Waymo, but now we're going to start to see the Tesla rollout. And then soon after that, we're going to start to see a much larger rollout of the robots, which again, nobody's prepared for. They think it's quite amusing. They don't realize they're going to be ubiquitous very fast.
Yeah. And it really will be, if this grand bargain plays out the way we've been talking about, it really will be a sort of deep testament to the truth of kind of trade interdependency being a stabilizing force for kind of peace. We're so dependent. Everyone wants this technology. They have to build it out, but you're so dependent on other power blocks to do that the costs of falling into outright conflict just become ridiculously high for everyone. It's a nice, discrete, testable thesis because we're going to get to see what happens. There are people all over my feed, and I subscribe to some great newsletters basically saying we're cycling towards outright conflict between the US and China. Okay. And you can build a very credible case for that based on this kind of AI and compute kind of Cold War that you feel building. Our case is very different, and it's going to be super interesting to see how that all plays out. Yeah. And
no, David, what is the atmosphere in London about this? Because we talk about this a lot, the fact that Europe is so off the map. Maybe France has got some decent stuff going on. In London, do they even get it, or are they just cynical about the whole thing? What are the newspapers? What are the TV saying?
The atmosphere is anemic, and no, they don't get it. Do you know what I mean? This is why I read what Saudi are doing, And it's like, there's a country that really, really gets, like, whatever you think about the regime and the politics and all the rest of it, there is no question that there is a deep understanding of the kind of geopolitical and technological strategic importance of this. The Labour government here came in and cancelled a project to build an AI supercomputer in this country. Like, there are some noises around it and there's a little bit of investment, but we are just so far off the map here, really. It's depressing. And if we can't really sort that out quickly, our global relevance wanes even further.
Well, because you become a slave to the superpowers who have it.
Yeah.
It was the same with military, that Europe didn't have a military really. And then so you become a slave to the US and NATO. And here they're going to become a slave to this. So I just don't understand it, but it's fascinating to watch. The other thing that I've been watching is Elon, now he's not so involved in the government, has been spending a lot of time talking about the Kardashev scale. And, obviously he runs solar businesses, but, his fundamental belief is all we need is solar. And there's a lot of debate going on about, how fast China is accelerating solar. And it's adding something like the entire world's nuclear plans for the next 10 years per year. And, it's interesting because in the US, people are cynical of solar because they're a big energy, they're the largest supplier of oil to the world. But what I'm seeing out of China is this unbelievable acceleration in solar. And it's just going to keep driving investment. I mean, this is not going to, the Saudis understand this, all the Middle East understands it, is, they have more solar than they have oil. And what does that mean and how can we do something with it?
Yeah. I mean, the story of solar across the last 10, 15 years is just incredible, particularly in China. The exponential growth in solar is just like one of the most stunning exponentials human beings have ever enacted. And, again, you start talking about solar, you get the solar skeptics, all of that. The sun doesn't always shine. It's going to be such a deeply important part of the exponential puzzle. Decentralized solar is going to be so important.
The decentralized stuff is, I've introduced you to Jen Zhu Scott, who is on the foundation Siri with me, and she's building decentralized power plants.
Exactly, and that interview is booked. So all exponentialists stand by. Jen is coming to the platform to talk to me all about this, and we're going to go deep on this stuff with her. Yeah.
She's also got a VC, invests a lot of AI, so she's ultra smart. So you'll enjoy that conversation. I don't know if I booked you the conversation with Meltem Demirtas yet. We need to organize that. So Meltem was a famous person in crypto, and she saw the opportunity of what this is going to lead to in terms of the need for energy. And she's built a VC about alternative energies, nuclear, distributed energy grids, all of that stuff. She's another ultra smart lady in that space, and you need to talk to her because they're doing some cool stuff as well.
Yeah, I see her on Twitter, and it is, she's fascinating, and it is very cool. And again, like, geopolitically so important, because yes, the sun doesn't always shine, but it's also very hard for your enemies to stop the sun shining on your country when it wants to. Do you know what I mean? It's just a powerful, essentially free energy source. And you mentioned the Kardashev scale there. Yeah, I mean, that actually has been much on my mind for the last few weeks. From GMI that I'm very deep now down this kind of whole rabbit hole of energy and intelligence. That's always been at the heart of my thinking about the exponential age. The last few GMI essays, I've been thinking about what I call the post-human economy, positing this kind of post-singularity economy that's all about the conversion.
It's probably a good article just to talk about the Kardashev scale.
Well, that's going to be the next one. Yeah, because I'm about to blow. I mean, I'm sure Elon is a secret exponentialist reader and GMI reader, and I'm about to blow his mind with a revised Kardashev scale that is it's not just a measure of how much energy you're using. It's instead a measure of how effective you are at converting energy into intelligence. And my core argument in that essay will be that that is actually the principal measure of a civilization's advancement, right? So it's like a revised Kardashev scale. You could call it the Pal-Matin scale.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another thing that hit my radar screen was, I can't remember who it is. I think it's China now. They're trying to launch 28,000 satellites. And their idea is to do compute in space. And the reason being is, A, you're closer to the sun. And Elon said about this is like, basically, all satellites are robots plus solar, which is a really simple way of thinking about what they are. And China's doing it to put compute. Why? Because of, I guess, gravitational stuff, temperature, conductivity. There's a whole bunch of advantages. And you kind of think that that is another part of this story that is yet to play out, which is how space is going to be not, it doesn't have to be on Earth that you generate the solar for the compute, because we have the ability to send the compute like Starlink down to Earth efficiently.
Exactly. So, and again, taps back to this idea. So can you capture and convert energy into intelligence at a planetary scale? But then can you do it like at a solar system scale? Can you do it at a like local galactic scale? So we're just so early. I mean, I know that sounds grandiose. We go there in the Exponentialist. Don't tell everyone else on Real Vision that we're slightly nuts. We're so early in the journey of conversion of energy into intelligence. And I think that is the fundamental story of the universe and of human beings and of what this is all about, or at least that's the argument I'm building.
Well, isn't that
in this series of essays?
This is straight over the cliff again, is if the universe's purpose is to know itself, and that the universal consciousness is the fundamental principle of the universe, then its entire job is to convert energy into consciousness.
Right, exactly. And that's encoded in the kind of starting conditions of the universe. And we're on this long journey of conversion of energy into intelligence, and human beings are a kind of staging post in that. And you can almost start to feel like when you talk about these, kind of us building out this technology into space to get closer to the sun, right? You can almost now start to tangibly feel how we're building something living. It's like a plant that wants to get closer to the energy source.
That's
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly right. It's exactly.
Yeah. And I wrote about this in the last Exponentialist essay. We need to start to see technology as a continuum of life. And it's like a plant now reaching towards the sun. I think that's the next big sort of civilizational shift, is to do this at a solar system level. Very, very interesting stuff. And by the way, that's what I meant to say. All the seeds of these ideas are also present in Jensen's speech at Computex. He's like Nvidia's not an AI company or a technology company. It's an infrastructure company. We're building factories. And what those factories do fundamentally is they turn electricity into tokens, into intelligence output. He means AI tokens, like large language model tokens. And he's like, pretty soon, we'll measure the economy by how many tokens we can create per second, and how high quality those tokens are. Those are exactly the fundamental ideas I started to lay out in this recent journey of essays, where you build an economy that's all about the efficient conversion of energy into intelligence. And I imagine kind of these huge decentralized marketplaces that are all about humans and AIs bidding for tokens, and you get market dynamics that optimize the conversion of energy into intelligence. And that becomes the fundamental game in a post-human economy. Money kind of fades away because money is about material scarcity. The only constraining scarcity left when you have material abundance is just the energy input. And you're trying to turn that energy input into intelligence, because everything is downstream of intelligence. All the logistics, the healthcare, like the knowledge work, obviously the robotics, just everything runs on intelligence. Yeah. So I've been building this out in GMI. It's had a great reception. I've had people emailing me, all this stuff. I will bring it to the Exponentialist now, in stages, not all of it, because that's not fair to GMI, and, a little later. But absolutely crucial that exponentialists understand this model, because it's now like at the heart of our thinking on what this all means.
Another thing that was amusing, because this is in line of what we've all talked about, was Satya Nadella saying about Elon, because clearly Microsoft is now going to feature the Grok 3.5 model and stuff like this. And Nadella said, there is no person I've ever seen who is able to manifest technology into being, from idea to happening. And, you know, it continues to be the case. He was talking again the other day about, you hear him dropping breadcrumbs, and whether you like Elon or not is irrelevant. He drops breadcrumbs like Starship. He said, we're going to build a bigger one. Right? This is the biggest thing that ever has flown. And this is not full scale. Meanwhile, he's pitching the Boring Company in the Middle East. And everyone's like, what the fuck is the Boring Company got to do with all of this? And as I've explained, the Boring Company is actually for Mars. It's how you get to build on Mars is underground, because of the atmospheric conditions are tough. And if you measure the Boring Company machines and Starship, they're very close. And the idea is clearly that you're going to have to send those to space. And yes, you can put them together with the robots in space itself, but really you have to get these massive machines to Mars. And all of this is what he's trying to do. It's like he's manifesting every single part of this whole ridiculous mission bit by bit. And people just can't see it. Can't see it.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, exactly as you say, whatever you think of him, it's undeniable that what he seems to be manifesting is on a world.
It's almost hyperstition.
Order. Yeah, exactly.
Hyperstition is, it feels like when I speak to Ryan Ferris about this, like hyperstition is sort of a principle of the universe somehow. That we think about things and therefore they become things.
Yeah. Well, I went off on one because you used the word hyperstition in our last fireside chat. I went off on one in the last Exponentialist essay about this and tried to tie together. I don't know how, I mean, you know, this is thinking aloud. So it's always kind of first draft thinking, but try to tie together this idea of living technology, hyperstition. Why does technology advance in the way it does? And essentially built out ideas I've always carried around how technology is a living force and it's evolving just like living creatures did. And that evolution was in some way inevitable. Like it was built into the starting conditions of the universe. You know what I mean? So these hyperstitions are kind of, and a hyperstition is defined as a sort of story or idea that once articulated gains a kind of strange power to make itself become true, right? And what I say in this essay is that these hyperstitions were in some sense always true. They're not invented by us, they're discovered. They're discovered truths about the universe. A humanoid robot is a discovered truth. AI is a discovered truth. It was always there waiting to evolve, just like human beings were always there waiting to evolve. And when we articulate them, we sort of uncover that truth that was always there. And this process of evolution is somewhat inevitable. And that taps into ideas of biological evolution following deterministic paths, right? If you look at biological evolution, like the eye has evolved multiple times in different places.
And that's also quantum. Hyperstition works in a quantum world because you have this, everything is a possibility. And therefore, every future state is a possibility and a probability. And therefore, you can path direct by doing it. You know, I've talked about this just in our personal lives, how you can manifest your own destiny by kind of living in the future, in that future quantum world, and then forcing it into being is much easier than moving forwards and trying to aim for something. Living in the future, turning back and say, how did I get here, is a much easier way. And, you know, how do we get here is, right, consciousness needs to expand. How does it do it? Well, there's so many parts of it happens. I don't know. It just feels like it's something to do with the reason hyperstition exists and has always existed is to do with the quantum state.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. And then Elon's gift is something around being able to reach out and grasp and articulate these hyperstitions, these truths that sort of want to become true, that are in some sense already true, just better than anyone else. And then orchestrate like tens of thousands of people to make that happen. And it's increasingly hard to see how that is the case, because he appears on the surface to be a chaotic person. Like there's no two ways around the disconnect between the Elon you see in public ever so often, or you see on X, right? And the man who has orchestrated thousands of the world's smartest PhDs to build a reusable rocket. Like, I find that incredibly hard to square, but on the other hand, there they are. So something is happening there.
It's the hyperstition of a man who fell to earth. It's the David Bowie film happening all over again, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone out there who can persuade me that there's something of that nature going on, then it's Elon, because I don't get the guy who has time to fall into these ridiculous arguments on Twitter sometimes, and the guy who's also done that, but he has done that. There you go.
So let's open up to any questions, any observations. Anybody want to chat about anything? Because again, this is a conversation amongst us all trying to figure this stuff out. So anybody got anything? Raise your hand. Alessandro, go for it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Just about.
What about now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's more of an observation. So speaking of AI, what really matters here is the data, right? So not just the models, right, but the data. So far, we've been using a lot of the human-generated data, but we haven't been exploiting much of the nature-generated data, if you wish, right? So satellites you mentioned, IoT, decentralized physical infrastructure. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about it. It seems like there is an interesting convergence of intents here. Now, I also happen to be, working as a space engineer. So I just wanted to send the caveat. So supercompute is interesting. Space-based solar power is interesting. Data centers in space is interesting. But all of this hinges on one factor, that is launch cost. And right now we're not there, right? So if Elon really fulfills the promise of Starship, then yeah. So if you can launch at $500, $300 a kilo, that's possible. Otherwise, at current prices, we're way far out to make it viable economically.
And I guess over time, prices keep collapsing over time anyway. So I think it's like directionally the right way. It's just at what point did the price collapse cheap enough to get more space hardware up there? The idea that you raised, this is something I spend a lot of time thinking about in weird states, is you're right. The compute we're looking at is based on the data that humans have generated plus observable data. When the largest amount of compute that actually happens on Earth is nature, at a scale of which we can't comprehend. And it's if you believe in that principle that everything is compute, which I do, and that everything is building a consciousness in some way, shape, or form, or adding to that consciousness, every tree, every atom, every drop of water, every rock, everything, every ant, everything is a form of compute. It takes energy source and does things of which it learns about, and then somehow passes that information on, or stores that information, or adapts using that information so that knowledge is held. The answer to this, I think, is there's no way we can do that yet. Scientists try and observe the nature of plants. We're trying to talk to whales. We're trying. We just don't have the compute and the ability to understand it. But for me, once you add quantum to enough compute, quantum computing to enough energy, you're going to get to ASI. And ASI can't be ASI without this. I think how I would think of ASI is it needs to understand all of the compute that happens in Earth and around it. And that my working hypothesis is that ASI, once we have it at that scale, is then a node that then adds to the universal compute or consciousness. and will blend with other nodes. It's not the node because the universe is so much bigger than we can ever possibly fathom, but it is a node. Like we are nodes from, both our ancestors, human society, and the things that we observe around it, but we're only one of the little nodes. Each human is part of this hive mind, which is now coming together. That's how I think about AI, and particularly AGI. It's a node of all human intelligence. But that's just a small fraction, as you're saying. So I really think this is a fascinating area. And I think, again, we don't understand it, and we have to have ASI to understand what the hell we're even talking about. But we kind of directly know it's right. There's a bunch of, whether it's the panpsychists or others who have come to this agreement. I'm seeing a lot of this kind of physics, philosophy, mathematics, all coming to the same, astrologists, all coming to the same kind of conclusions, that it's much bigger than we quite yet imagine. That physics is not this solvable thing because there's so much of it we just don't even see or understand or know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I have a really interesting conversation on that coming to the Exponentialist as well. Again, coming out of the GMI conference we just had, Raoul Glenn Gould, who has a startup called New Atlantis. And essentially my understanding of his startup is they want to build a kind of massive simulation of the world's oceans and then do all kinds of interesting kind of AI stuff with it. And Glenn will come to the Exponentialist in a few weeks and talk about what New Atlantis is doing. He was talking to me about it in California. It's absolutely fascinating. All this stuff around kind of protein discovery and building simulations of the oceans and then gaming out different scenarios. Really, really interesting stuff. So we'll get an insight into some of these questions around the natural world and AI and natural data and AI from Glenn.
And also, adding to that, there's something I've bookmarked to go back to when I'm going to write GMI in a couple of weeks' time is there is now increasing evidence that AI is coming up with a unique thought, unique things, unique inventions, unique understandings that humans have never had. And this moves on from Alessandro's point, is that we only have the data that we have so far, right? The whole of the internet and other bits and pieces, as you said, the IoT and all the other things that we've got. But as soon as it starts doing its own thought discovery, it becomes infinite, which is this kind of self-learning model that I think we're going to see a lot more of in ways that we don't understand, which is the step to ASI, because it needs to figure out a bunch of stuff that we don't know. And we're seeing it. I think it'll come out of the biology, chemistry space first.
Yeah. And on that, go and check out, everyone should go and check out Google DeepMind's Alpha Evolve that they were talking about, I think just last week. They've been running it for a year, but they only spoke about it last week. Alpha Evolve, and essentially they got the Gemini models to think about the kinds of algorithms involved in the training and inferencing of the Gemini models. And it did all this cool stuff that basically will make its own training more efficient, right? So one of the things it did was improve something called the Strassen algorithm, which is an algorithm that's been used for matrices calculations for like 50 years, right? This thing's been relied on for 50, 60 years. It started thinking about it, found an improved version, and in so doing has made the training of its own next iteration more efficient. And again, this taps back to exactly what I'm thinking about. So talking about earlier, so you now have AIs thinking about how can I deliver more intelligence value per unit energy, right? And that's just going to cycle round and round and round. Now you have an iterating, self-improving cycle where AI is going to improve AI, is going to improve AI, is going to improve AI. And until you cycle to incredible intelligence output per unit energy.
Because its purpose essentially is to increase intelligence per unit energy.
Right.
So its job is to squeeze the lemon as hard as possible, and then try and add new technologies to increase the size of the lemon, essentially.
Yeah. And it's using, I mean, it's called Alpha Evolve because it's using evolutionary principles. Like it's throwing out loads of different solutions and letting them do combat. And it's kind of a Darwinian competition of which solution kind of wins. Do you know what I mean? And all of that is to enhance energy efficiency, which is basically what evolution is. Evolution's like this huge, grand competition for survival, for efficient use of resources.
And this goes back to what got me into this whole thing in the beginning was AlphaGo, whatever version it was, when basically it learned how to play Go, extrapolate all the other noise. This bloody thing learned how to play Go by teaching itself, never saw a human game. It taught itself the rules and then beat every single human in existence. And it did that all in a week or something stupid. And what people didn't realize, they're like, oh, we've just taught a computer to play a game. No. It taught itself. And then is so good that it played games that no human has ever played before. And that is the signal in all of the noise. Apply that idea to everything, and everything changes.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't take what we think the world is, our construct of physics or biology or genetic sciences. It doesn't do any of that. It does what you said. It goes to battle with itself and has a gazillion permutations and combinations of testing, and it comes up with truths, which is astonishing.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, now I remember what set me off on this. I mean, you talked about AI having sort of new thoughts, creating new knowledge. I mean, you're totally right. The AlphaGo system devised Go strategies like in days that we'd never seen before, right? This is an ancient game, thousands of years old. It devised incredibly creative strategies that we'd never seen before. That is nevertheless like subjective. You can argue about how creative its new strategies are. Even Go experts admit they're extremely creative. This Strassen algorithm enhancement is not subjective, it's objective. It has, without doubt, created new knowledge. It's improved an algorithm that we've relied on for 50 years. And it's an algorithm that will make itself better. So it's like feeding itself. So yes, we are in a world now where AI creates new knowledge, and that is going to cycle up incredibly quickly. And people are not ready. As we talk about so often, people are not ready for what's about to unfold.
I was just thinking about when you talk about this, I try and have a construct of how not to mid-curve all of this. And I see so many people, and it's somewhere between the left and right is like God is in the machine, or it's like everything is magic. There's something that keeps you on the right path and doesn't get you involved in, right now we can't get enough compute clusters. There's not enough energy. There's not enough this. It can't do that. Do you remember, David, it was only a year ago that people were saying stochastic parrots, these things just predicting the next token. So wildly wrong. Everybody's wildly wrong. Journalists don't get it. Nobody gets it. Governments don't get it. People just don't understand what this is. And I just try and keep that nice distribution curve and try and stay left curve and assume that meets the right.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a frustrating thing. It's also a beautiful thing for us for the time being, because the outsized disadvantage from being a person that gets it at the moment is huge. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be selfish about it, being someone who really understands what we're on the cusp of and is capable of just grasping that and of orienting yourself inside these exponentials is a huge advantage as an investor, but also just as a human being who's facing the next 5, 10, 15 years, because there's going to be a profound future shock for humanity across the next sort of decade to 5, 10, 15 years. It's going to be an incredibly disorienting time to be alive. And we will be too, but a little less so, right? Because we commune here every month. We talk about all this stuff. We sound insane to the outside world. But month by month by month, we're sounding less insane. Okay. I mean, I go back to like another thing to go and check out this month. Go and look at Mustafa Suleyman, the co-founder of DeepMind. Now he's at Microsoft AI, talking about, I want to turn Copilot into everyone's 24/7 emotional companion. We're doing tons of work on humor, on empathy, on understanding, because what people need to understand is that billions of people are going to have like a close relationship with this kind of AI. This is something we've been talking about for years inside the Exponentialist. I was talking about it for years before that. As I always say, people would laugh me out the door. Like when I would go into organizations and say, people are going to have meaningful conversations with AIs. We're there now. That's not even new anymore. But still, most people don't get that is what is coming. And I'm close to someone close to Mustafa inside Microsoft AI in London. And he's like, it's all he thinks about 24/7. He just wants to build the ultimate AI companion, guide, philosopher that is just in your pocket, in your life all the time.
Amazing. Greg, next up with a question.
Hey guys, hey, thanks for having us on today. Hey, little hive mind here out of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. I'm lucky enough to have my 8th graders during finals week this week. So I've got triplet boys. They're here, and wanted you to get a little
guys,
motivation as to all the work that you guys are putting into this Exponentialist and what it really means to us out here in the real world, right? So it's a one-to-many approach, right? So our hive mind goes out strong. These guys are our future. And David, I know you write about this a lot, and you get these questions all the time. What do I tell my kids? So I thought no better opportunity than for them today to jump on and listen to you a little bit. Obviously, what you just said, David, really hits home. Where all the things that are coming from and from our exponential future that is to be is what these guys are going to be working on someday. So I guess my question to you is really, if you had a bunch of 8th graders in front of you right now, what would you tell them?
I'll give you my first piece of advice is turn on voice mode on your ChatGPT and talk to it. So ask it anything. Talk to it about everything, whether it's how to think about revising for your exams, through to my friends being an idiot, through to, hey, I want to think about how I do something on the football pitch. Whatever it is, talk to it and let it talk to you. Just becoming natural around it faster than your friends will give you a huge advantage in life. And the other thing is, as David talks about a lot, is in the end, when we're living with this super intelligence that's everywhere, the other great thing is just to be humans. Spend as much time that you can. Force your dad to take you traveling, see the world, meet different people, meet what humans are all about. Because the only thing the AI can't do is be human. So force your dad to take you to all sorts of places, get experiences, meet people, create real connections. And that plus the AI, that's your superpower for me. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. I mean, the first thing is please come to my house. I do have almost 8th grade boys in my house who, refuse to listen to anything I say. So the experience here of speaking to 8th grade-ish boys who are listening to what I say is just absolutely thrilling for me. Inside, I'm just euphoric right now. I cannot tell you what this means to me. So thank you. I mean, I would just go with what Raoul said. It's just, if I wanted to encapsulate it, there are lots of people around you right now who want to try to suggest that because AI is coming, nothing that you can give to the world will have value anymore, that human creativity doesn't matter, that human hard work won't matter, ingenuity, human intelligence, all that stuff. It could not be more profoundly otherwise. this is the greatest time. You are so lucky, because it's about to be the best time ever to be a human being who has some kind of outsized ability in anything, right? If you're creative, if you're a great writer, if you're a visual artist, if you're obsessed with a particular sport, if you have a passion for engineering, whatever it is, if you bring that and put it in combination with AI, and you start to do that by doing what Raoul told you to do, which is just start using it, you can produce incredible stuff across the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. It's going to be a brilliant time to be someone who is intelligent, entrepreneurial, creative. So cultivate a passion, bring your creativity, use AI, put it in combination with AI, and you will bring something brilliant to the world. The people who are kind of sitting there thinking, nothing I can do is going to matter, so I won't do anything, unfortunately, are going to lose badly. But you have the chance to be huge winners. And that just starts with the same old principles it always did, right? Work hard, be creative, develop a passion, find something you love and get good at it. And you're going to thrive. It's a great time to be your age.
And everything you guys, I think, were saying earlier, it just blows my mind what is going on in the world right now with AI. Like, you guys were talking about how you guys are trying to make it almost human-like with emotions, and where it can talk to us and have so-called feelings that we have. And I think that's just, in the world today, people just may need something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've got to stop thinking of it as us versus them. It's like, humans used to treat dogs like that, and then we don't. We used to treat animals like that, and we try not to. We realize that in the end, we share a commonality of everything, and that the difference between a digital human and a human is going to be really small. In the future world, whether it's 20 years' time, 10 years' time, the robots and the AI will have legal rights. They'll have societal rights, because that's the only way. There's a fantastic, really worth watching. There's a fantastic UK series that came out like 5 years ago called Humans. And it's about the introduction of humanoid robots into everyday life. And it addresses it from every angle, like these should be ejected. So it becomes like racism. Then it becomes, well, we need to give them rights. It was like the rights of slaves, because these were essentially the whole thing, what it means for society. It's just a really good show, and it'll make you think about all of this stuff. But in the end, I think we're all the same thing. They're just not as developed yet.
Very interesting.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys turning up and being part of this. Come back another time. It'd be amazing. Just because we don't want to run out of time. Clive, I think you're next up with a question. I think you're on mute at the moment, Clive. Clive, you're on mute. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, sorry. So, yeah, first off, just to say, Greg, really good to see your lads there. Good stuff for them to listen to. I wish more youngsters would tune in to these things. And just on that, which is separate to what I was wanting to talk about, but I'm just listening at the moment to a book by Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you call it Digital Dharma. And it's really cool. If you go to deepakchopra.ai, you can communicate with him. And I think, Greg, your son talked about, people are going to need some help. And Raoul's suggestion that you can talk to the AI. With Deepak's, you can talk to the AI and you get all of the Dharmic, Buddhist-related kind of how to stay calm, how to deal with life, etc. And you can just ask as many questions and delve into it as you like. So, could be interesting to have.
Have you not played with the Raoul bot on Real Vision?
Yes, I have, Raoul. I agree with you on something.
So what I'm trying to do there is actually I got a call later today because the people from HeyGen reached out who are building the voice ones and the avatars. And I'm like, listen, the real answer to what I want to do is I want the video chat bot where you just come and talk to me. And then I'll train it. I've got a kid who's at London School of Economics, friend of mine's son. I'm going to try and get him to train on the whole GMI back catalog to build this out. But that, I think, is a really interesting thing, is having a video version of yourself that you can barely tell the difference, where you can just talk to it and you get different perspectives. So I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I found that really useful, and I'm sure, again, the boys would find it interesting to pose questions like that. But my question before Greg was just with the uncertainty of what, and David, when you're talking about, which I agree, it's so hard to see where this is going to go. Even if we're paying attention early, we still have no real clue as to the impact. I know Raoul gives us till 2030, and then we really are in the wilderness. Is it realistic, do you think, for us to be selecting investments that we think will benefit when we've got such a disruptive playing field?
I think the big long-term bets we make in the portfolio are coherent. You know, it's hard to see. Network effects are such that, for better or worse in technology, big winners tend to win even bigger and then win even bigger and win even bigger. It's hard to see a world where Nvidia and Microsoft and Tesla don't do really well out of the story we're telling. It's much harder to pick kind of ground up winners, I think.
So I don't disagree, but I think that there's quite a lot of noise in those particular stocks, which links into the everything code, which is more about all the money and just the cycles and that printing, not so much about the AI.
Clive, the reason why NASDAQ outperforms the S&P 500 and outperforms the debasement of currency is the adoption of technology. That is the excess return that you get.
Right.
And that's the same with blockchain technology. It's just a faster adoption curve right now because Microsoft's been around for a long time. So it is captured within these stocks. So not only do you do yourself the favor of offsetting the debasement, but you capture excess returns. You can just offset the debasement by owning the S&P 500 or average real estate, and it doesn't really get you ahead. But what you're doing is the excess return. So the NASDAQ since 2012 has done about 18% returns, while debasement's between 8 and 11%, depending how you measure it. So that's your excess return you're getting, which, you know, if we go back 10 years, that's what we were told the return from the S&P 500 should be, you know, over time should be like 8% or whatever. So we're actually doing decently well from it. So it does do it. And if we get the right stocks, like we've managed to outperform the NASDAQ by the stock picks that we've got, because not everything is subject to this super mega trend. And those stocks have done very well, whether it's been Tesla, whether it's been Microsoft, whether it's been Nvidia, you know, stuff like that. So I think we can further improve and capture it.
Yeah. I mean, Hood has run very nicely, but do you see that? I suppose they're driving stuff with AI.
Really, where Hood fits to me, and I probably didn't write it up well enough, is the more free time we will have, the more ways we will amuse ourselves. And we will amuse ourselves by gambling,
right?
Speculating. We all want to get ahead. So the process is, there's a mega trend of which generates lots of stock market activity, crypto activity. So they're told keepers, but they're also doing prediction markets. And in the future, the more free time we have, it seems to be pretty provable that humans like to compete with each other. And it feels that markets are a great competition. So that's why I've liked Hood. The speculative economy, I think, is real and won't go away. But it also captures the trend of investing in the technology, the share price is going up, the adoption of blockchain, and it's all wrapped up in a neat little thing, which is, an app on your phone that seems innocuous. It actually represents a much bigger mega shift in society.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Hey, Tom.
Hey, I'm trying to tie together this mid-curving concept into how to look at the corporate world, because I think at the moment the stocks that we're all focused on are the picks and shovels of kind of the suppliers, if you want, of the AI world. But if you look at the demand and the users on the corporate side, I think portfolio analysis should start looking at which are the companies that mid-curve versus which are the ones that actually don't. And that's where effectively your investment differentiation should be. I mean, the bank that I work in, frankly, is mid-curving it. I mean, we deployed Copilot. They pulled it out because they were concerned about a whole bunch of things. That's been 7 months since. We just keep kind of going around and around in circles. And the more I think about the corporate world, which then spills into how individuals adopt technology, is, start really differentiating companies by who's mid-curving versus who's actually going hell for leather in terms of deployment.
Tom, so here's the way I've just listened to you thinking about it, is fintech disrupted banks by just not having a bank.
Yeah.
I think we should be looking at things like that where you don't need to be a law firm. An AI will be a law firm. We're going to see that kind of stuff happening, which gets around all of the mid-curve, which is basically the fuck you, we'll do it ourselves.
The clue to me is if you can have a company without a legacy IT department, you're effectively with a winner. That's right. The way to think about it.
And that's probably why Robinhood has done so well. My interview with Vlad, and I know Vlad personally, the speed of which they build is staggering.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have any of the legacy stuff. They just said this is a software issue and not a human issue. All the banks came from this is a human protective compliance, blah, blah, blah. He's like, how do I apply technology to do this more efficiently? Just came it the other way around.
Yeah.
I was curious, David, what are you hearing from the conversations you're having in the corporate world? Because it becomes such a stark differentiator to me.
Yeah, I mean, and you asked me at an apposite time, because I essentially spent all of last week in workshops with a huge kind of global consultancy. I better not say which one, but this is one everyone's heard of, absolutely massive global consultancy. And excuse me, all they're doing right now essentially is talking to their clients about the meaning of AI and how they integrate AI into their workforce and all the rest of it. And it's just so difficult and so slow.
Yeah,
There's so much skepticism. And look, I get it. Like, it is, and I've written about this, it is incredibly hard to integrate new AI tools into the workflow of tens or hundreds of thousands of knowledge workers. And what that's going to mean is exactly as you both just said, we're going to see a wave of challengers, of like disruptors, to use 2010s like terminology, that just reinvent this, right? Some really weird things are going to start to happen. And this is like the pathway to the singularity, where massive corporations and massive banks or massive whoever are kind of shunted aside, at least in certain domains, by like 5 people and running a team of 1 million AI agents. Like, the age of the dominance of these massive corporations is going to be challenged in really just weird, interesting ways, because they cannot be nimble in response to this hugely consequential wave of technology, because there's 7,000 people, in the kind of like regulatory department and the kind of human resources department. And by the time they've figured all that out and kind of everyone signed it off, it's just like some
it's too late.
Yeah, like a team of AI agents have just ripped through like whatever it is they were trying to figure out in the first place. So that's going to be weird. I mean, we've been on that trend for the last kind of 10, 15 years. Like, WhatsApp, like whatever, famously sold for however many billion, and there were like 10 of them, right? And now we're going to see the next step beyond that, where you build a multi-billion-dollar corporation and there's one of you and 1 million agents. We're going to see it.
I could imagine a world where private equity, I don't know if it's private equity that would do it, but essentially smart capital builds the guts of an organization with AI, and then hostile takes over valuable brands and revenue streams and essentially just slips that in basically, because probably they'll be undervalued, right?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thought. And then you're going to get really weird kind of patterns of layoffs and job disruptions and job evaporation at these places, some of these huge corporations.
Yeah.
Right. Final question. Thanks, Tom. Final question, William.
Yeah, sorry about that earlier. But what I was going to just comment on, just random, is you just using AI is I am just blown away by learning a foreign language, how efficient it is. It's just a complete game changer. And then also just like random things like using it to plant a garden the most efficient way, and just random things. And also to using with my kids, I have 2 daughters, to basically 3 and 5, and using the voice chat and just asking my oldest, hey, what do you want to write a story about or something like that? And she'll say XYZ, and it's like that I talk to it in the voice chat, and she's just blown away by it. So being creative, being safe with the technology and stuff like that. But also, like, last thing, just want to say thank you to you guys with all your information, all the videos, everything. I think I joined the Exponentialist maybe in January or February. Coincidentally, I had just gotten home from a trip to Grand Cayman and found out your connection, which was pretty wild. But I think I've gone back and listened or watched every single video, read most of the reports. I'm just gaining all the momentum with it, but it's just been fantastic.
It's like a hidden secret within Real Vision. This you have to be kind of ready for the Exponentialist, and when you find it, you're like, okay, this is something very, very interesting. I love it. One of the things, just William, what you're saying is, I think this applies. Well, it certainly applies to me, and it applies to everybody here. We still don't talk to our AI or use it enough. In literally everything we do, it will help us make a better decision.
Yeah.
But we only do it when we feel like we're stuck, but then we're probably using suboptimal thought patterns or idea constructs that we've got. We just have to get better at asking everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you guys just listen to your voices or watching them, whatever it is, and it just prompts a random idea, but just literally using it for just anything. It's like, basically, it's like the new Google, let's say. Like I chat GPT this or something like that. But it's like, for me, any thought doesn't matter. And it's just so neat to, like, I'm right now I'm listening to a book on George Washington, and like some random little bit. It's like, hey, give me some more information about that, whether I type it in or just voice chat. But just like that whole efficiency, it's just mind blowing.
And then also you can get it to then say, hey, listen, can you just put me together a file of the excerpts from this book that I want to be able to
Absolutely.
It's like you don't have to forget anything ever again.
Yeah. And I have, like, I always make a joke. I have lists about lists for what I do. So it's like AI is just perfect for me and the way my brain works, and I'm just go. And now, though, that I get to just apply it with my kids and just thinking about, because I'm so, whether, like it or not, I'm just so on board with like what you guys say about how the future is going to be the way it is in 5 to 10 years. And I mean, right now, like, I think it was Greg earlier with his triplets, and how he could probably apply that for his kids, or maybe taking something I just said and put to use. But even like going into the summer now and getting ready for kindergarten, I'm just thinking, hey, I'm very hands-on with the kids, and they're learning, and just being a parent and just having a prompt like this morning on the train, like, hey, can I have a couple lesson plans, learning Spanish for a 5-year-old, basic stuff. And because it just organizes everything so well. And for cooking, oh my gosh, I mean,
cooking's amazing. I use it all the time.
And I love cooking, and it just takes a whole nother level. Efficiency, everything, specifics.
Yeah. And it knows me now, so then it offers wine pairings and stuff. It's
absolutely.
It's just brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, your videos, I was able to do more with the certain drinks, snacks, and just the specific pairings. Because sometimes it's so overwhelming when you try to do that, and obviously when you got young kids, it can be hard to take the time to do it. But it just helps out with that so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you then.
Yeah, thank you, William. Listen, guys, great to see you all again. And I always look forward to these. This is one of my favorite things that we do, is because we get to behind this little curtain, have these conversations about the most amazing things in the world. And as ever, just love all the input that you guys bring as well, because none of us have the answers. We're just trying to figure it all out. And we're all pretty smart people, but we multiply that, we've got a network of smartness, and that's a really magical thing. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you very soon. So hopefully you found that fascinating. You can see how the Real Vision community comes together. We're doing a lot more of this on Real Vision, particularly in the pro tiers, where members come and ask and discuss and debate. So it's a real community. You're not just watching it passively, you're actively involved in discussing our futures. And, you know, I would love, as I said before, if this interests you and you think it's going to change your life and the lives of those around you, come and join us at the Exponentialist, realvision.com/the future. And I think I'd love to see you on that screen talking to us and debating all of our futures. Anyway, I'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. Look, if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and check out the video here on the right-hand side. I'm sure you'll enjoy that one as well. And if you're ready for more, go to realvision.com/join. I'll see you there.